the next procedures were. And Mike's done a good job of, making sure everybody in practice gets reps, because I think we're truly living in a time, where you just don't know. And I think this past week in our league has been probably the biggest example of that. We've seen on other teams that have been more significantly impacted than we were, although, losing 2 guys into the game is not ideal. I think now more than ever, we've got these big rosters, and the groups that are called upon to deliver, those are moments, and that was an example of that this week.
Since DeMarcus has been back these last 3 games, every one of them you guys have had, 4 takeaways. How much does he impact? Obviously he did yesterday, but how much does he impact all of that?
I think his one, he impacted it a lot yesterday. The first one on the tip ball that Jordan had, and then the punch out was an impressive play against Barkley, because here is a guy that does not give up the ball. I think you can see how strong his hands are on the one pass that he threw. I mean, he caught like the tip of the ball. Like those are just things you don't see very often. And so for him to knock one out against a guy who's got very good ball security, I thought, it kind of shows to his physicality to go. But he's got a good mindset, and even though he was out, he wasn't far away from the guys and talking, and the attitude and the style. So an identity, it doesn't happen overnight, in terms of how a team wants to play. But I would say that D-Law helps that identity a lot because of the violent nature that he plays with, the speed that he plays with. So certainly been good to have him back, that's for sure.
Micah seemed on that Jordan Lewis interception to attract a lot of attention from the offensive line. He also, on his rush, pressured the quarterback on Trayvon's interception. Between that and then that third down play on the pick and switch, what would you make of Micah's game on a day where statistically the box score doesn't show up? Yeah,
and I would say, quite honestly, early on in the game, there weren't a lot of throws. You guys probably saw that too. I think at the half, if I'm not mistaken, it might have been somewhere not counting the 2-minute right before the half, maybe 12 run, 2 pass. Something. So they were definitely, trying to establish that part of the game to get going. But I thought probably the best one of the day was on the pick play in man-to-man, and it was definitely a legal play. It was within a yard, and so I thought just the awareness to go and finish the play out. I thought that was the play of the day, of ones that don't show up on the stat sheet, but it shows up, in our room for the guys that know that.
Part of that play, most impressive part of that play for you was the awareness?
The awareness, yes, because the person that he was guarding was doing the one that had the pick. So he had to be the one to go. And sometimes you may, with 2 DBs, hey, let's play this in and out. There's some techniques that you can do when you do that. You don't often do it with a DB and a linebacker, but we did it on that play, and I think that kind of shows to his awareness. It was the best play that didn't get a lot of stats with it.
I guess the awareness to take the guy, but also to turn his head the way he played the ball as well, I guess is what's impressive.
And I think what one of the things I admire about him is when some mistakes happen, he generally doesn't repeat that mistake. There could have been a game earlier in the year, it might have been on Fournette, on a running back early, where he didn't go to finish it all the way out, and he's one of those players that remembers that moment and has a way to connect back to something. And I was that play to me was the one that stood out the most. So
now that Lawrence is back and Gregory's back and Parsons are back, how much, or I guess, what does your system allow them to build a rapport within themselves and still be within the system when it comes to rushing and knowing tendencies?
Sure.
And how much, I guess, latitude or freedom do they have within the system to kind of play off each other?
That's a good question. I would say one, maybe, and I may have said this before earlier, one of the things that you don't want to happen turns out to be the best thing to happen. So by Micah going to defensive end for some weeks at a time, it allowed that rapport to happen with the defensive line and pass rush games and things to go, because it's not just as easy as, hey, just go down and play DN. There's pressures and pass rush done. So living in that room with them for weeks at a time has helped, when he has to go back and forth to defensive end and linebacker. And I would suspect there's some calls that can be made. Sometimes a defensive line may see a stance that means pass, and well, he knows what those calls are now at linebacker as well. So I think there is some real carryover when it goes from one to the other. As far as the jobs go for all of them, we try to not have them do things that they haven't done before, or hey, this is just like something else. And so the more often that we do that, I think that's you may have a little different design of a pressure or something, but at the end of it, it's a job they've done before. They may be from a different alignment, but it's something that they've done before. I think that's one of the keys to make it look complex, but really at the end of it, it can stay fairly simple.
DeMarcus, even though he's only played 4 games this season, has probably taken more snaps on the interior than he did all of last year. What does he bring or give you in that specific technique?
Sometimes it's matchups that you want to get, as much speed as you can or find a way to go. So as far as last year goes, I can't comment on that, but I can say, finding different spaces to play him. And you'd be surprised just putting different guys over a guard or over a tackle. It makes them set different and play a little bit different. And so it won't be an all the time thing, but his best thing is when he's ripping outside. But we like the versatility of him going back and forth. And certain games he may have a few more inside, and certain games he may hardly have any, just depending on where the matchups are.
How do you approach that subject with a veteran player when you say, hey, you're an outside guy now, I'm going to put you inside a little bit? How does that happen?
I think you start right from the beginning and just kind of, talk about the versatility. We've done it with Randy as well, so it's not like, hey, we're only going to do this with you. We've done it with we've done it with DA, we've done it with Randy, we've done it with Micah. So having different guys that you can put into those roles, I think, is important, and it doesn't have to be every game where they're doing it. But I do like to work on some things during the week, and this may not be up for this game, but let's practice it a few weeks, and when it's game ready, then we can use it. And so sometimes we may have a package that's up, but maybe not up for the game, but we know we're working on it, and eventually, we'll get it game ready to go. But quite often I don't do a lot that it's just, let's try it one time on a Thursday and, so shit, here we go, hope for the best. So I try to make sure we have gone through as many of the scenarios and situations as we can.
When a guy has his length and his hand usage, even though you maybe haven't seen it a lot, take him doing it, you just say, it's probably going to work.
Yes. Because the same skills that you still apply outside, you just move them inside to play. Hey, you're doing the same exact techniques, the same rushes, just the guy's going to set differently. And quite honestly, that's why guards, the wider you can align, there's times when they may set differently. And sometimes they don't adjust, and okay, hey, maybe that's not the week to try to put somebody over this guy, but sometimes it is. So that's why it's not an every week thing.
Have you had a defense where you could bring waves of players that you've done, not just D-line, but obviously you shuffle a lot at linebacker and,
Yep.
and your DBs kind of
Yeah, this is the most, I would say, from the entire thing. I've always felt like from a defensive line standpoint to be at your best, having, a multitude of players who can, I know that was a struggle, a large group of players that you can rotate, especially at the end of the half and at the end of the game. That's really when we need to be at our best. And so there's been times in my career, like a guy like Jason Taylor was able to play every play. Well, he's a rare person, obviously, but by and large, the more that you can get coming at an aggressive way. And that's why I like having Gallimore back. He's made some impactful plays, and he hasn't had, more than 30 snaps, but the ones he's had, you feel his energy, you feel his speed to go. And so having this combination of guys is good. And I think the more we get time together, that's what I said, we got a lot to work on, and we can play cleaner and faster and things that can just be sharper. And so there's no missteps, and just be tighter and faster. And that's what I'm hopeful we'll get to, as we get through this week and keep moving on.
Does it stretch beyond the D-line with?
It does, yep. And certainly at linebacker, we have a rotation there, and at safety, we do as well. So those are the positions that we maneuver around the most. And so, yeah, it's the biggest group that I've rotated, not counting the D-line.
The Giants' longest play came on that 4th and 1. What happened on that play, or what do you wish happened on that play?
Well, I wish we stopped him, I'd say that. But I would say it was a good play. We were playing for the quarterback sneak with inches, so we really overloaded the inside. And so for them to, kick the ball outside, they made a good block onto JK, pulled the guard out around onto Diggs, and so that's where the explosive play hit. So sometimes you can be, too bold inside, and they got a good check to go outside. So I really, quite honestly, I tip my hat to them, to Kitchens and their staff for coming up with a good design. Later on, it wasn't the same series, but another one, they had the sneak called again, and we checked into a different look on it. And so that worked out better. It was a 4th down stop, but both of them, I believe, were 4th down stops, and both of them were inches. So sometimes a little bit of cat and mouse game between the coaches, when you will, when you won't. And but I do got to give him credit. That was a good play.
What can Diggs do when he's got a 300-plus pound offensive lineman?
Not cut him anymore, which is, it's a good rule. I mean, if we're talking about player safety. So what do you do on that one? You try to foot fake somebody to, show a leverage one way and come back. But at the end of the day, you have to keep your leverage. And so he did that on that play. We could also get the inside linebacker out to get there quicker. And so, but on that particular play, in the old days, you might, you go, try to, set the edge on him by going low and try to smash it up that way. But different time, different space. So you still have to keep your leverage, but you don't have to, run to it. So he can foot fake to go, and so that's something we can work through. But that's a tough one.
You mentioned thinking about before you fell asleep where this defense can go. Even going back to Seattle, you kind of oversaw some of these defensive creations, I guess, for lack of a better word. Where are y'all in finding your identity, and how have you seen that process unfold?
That's a good question. Well, I would say, one, identity doesn't happen overnight. And for us to say we're into that space, we're not even at our best yet. So it's hard for us to compare where we would be and all that. I just honestly want to say, how much better can we get this week? And that, to me, is where the goal is, because we can't compare anything until we reach our best. And I don't think we were anywhere near where that is. And we got things to improve on and spaces to go, and that's what we intend on doing. But at the end, the identity isn't created overnight, but it is moving in that way. And I love the attitude, the energy, the connection. And when that happens, good things that follow. That group was a rare one, from even walkthroughs, to like, there was not a pass completed. And so the standards, the intensity that they played with, but that'd be hard to compare because we're not even at our best yet. And so I want to make sure those are good discussions for postseasons and off seasons, but in the middle of it, man, let's just stay right where we're at and try to improve and be the best version of us right now. And I think we got a long way to go, and because I think we're getting these people back, and now we're into a groove and working off one another. So I'm pleased with where we are with the ball. I'd be hard pressed to think we could do a better job on the ball over the last few games. So that part, I'm very impressed with the guys.
Relative to where the defense is today, what does its best look like?
I would say overall, I like where we're at on the ball, and I want to continue our tackling. I thought in this game to have 3 missed tackles, that was a big step in the right direction for us. It goes to disguise. It goes to finishing on plays. And so just the relentless nature, I hope when you guys see it, say, man, you guys are hauling ass and flying and the hitting. So those are the things I think, when you improvement, it might not seem like this, 50% better, but collectively, our communication, our speed to go even faster and cleaner, that's what improvement looks like to me. We had some busts. We had a couple of miscues here and there, and so that's what I mean by cleaner. And if we can do those faster, and if we can do those cleaner, I think it'll allow us to run and hit better. And that's more time on task and keep hitting on the same things. That's why I was referring to, like, some of these packages may look like wholesale changes, but they're really subtle changes, and we got to make sure we nail them every single time.
How much do you like and encourage the defense versus offense bet on turnovers versus touchdowns?
You know what? It's a good competing, offense, defense bet. The best part of our team is the team. And that's the coolest part about being here and being a part of this group. When you see the players interact in offense and defense and teams. And so not every team has that. And so when you do, you've got something that you want to work on. And I think it comes really from, the leaders on this team that want to fight and battle for one another and truly showing that they got one another's back. And that's a powerful feeling when you're a player or you're a coach and you look behind you, there's 60 or 70 people that say, man, I got this person's back. And that's the cool part about our team.
Marcus is by no means old, but he is the longest tenured defensive player. He's been around some successful teams here. When guys get to his stature and experience in the league, do you get the sense from him that these games matter a little bit more, that these circumstances, these opportunities that lay out in front of him mean a little more to a 30-year-old DeMarcus as opposed to a 22-year-old?
I think that comes with experience for sure for any player. And, when you're a rookie, you're thinking, that's a pretty good deal. Like that's always how it is. And I can remember one of my favorite players of all time was Bryant Young. And so he won the championship as a rookie in San Francisco Niners time in 1994, I guess that would have been, and then played, I think, 13 more years without. And so I think the older you get, you have appreciation for when you're on a really good crew because you have that experience to fall back on. And so I think perhaps that's what DeMarcus could be referring to. But, he's always has a good edge about him, about competing, about toughness, about what it's going to take, and I like that about him. You want to add one more?
Yeah, that'd be great. You were mentioning seeing how far y'all can go. Several of your players have said, we're not a championship defense till we win a championship, but we have the potential. But when Trayvon was asked yesterday, is it where this defense ranks in the league, he said he thinks it's the best. Is that something you encourage because of the confidence, or where's that balance between confidence but waiting to prove it?
Well, I would say, one, that's what you'd expect, right? That, you know, as somebody's going into it to say, hey, we like where we're headed and we like what we're making progress on. But to really, I would agree with them to say, to make your mark, it has to be, you talk about these things postseason, not in season. And so there's no championships given out for, you know, playing well on December, wherever we're at. So I think that's why I keep pushing on better, better, better. And sometimes better is, you know, small gains, but if you make some, I make some, and we keep pushing together, before you know it, you're making some pretty good strides. And it's a competitive group. I like where we're at. I like the mindset. They want to fight for one another, and that's a big piece of it. So, but I'd say we still, until you're at the end, you don't really get to say. That's how I've always viewed it. And you got to take on some really good teams and really good players. So for us, I think just staying in the moment of this week and this part about getting better, because if you look too far down the road, you'll get your ass knocked off. And I want to make sure we stay right where we're at and focus our time on getting better, even when you're improving. Then I say pedal downhill, go harder. And we should expect more from one another because we are getting better. All right, you guys have a good day.
Good. You doing?
The Rainbow Warriors. Well done. Played there a few times. Aloha Stadium.
Were you in the same conference as them?
Whack for a couple of years.
I can't keep track of the
I know.
conference alignment
I
anymore.
know.
Yeah.
They were good. That was Colt Brennan. All that good stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't play against him, but that was my redshirt year. So, yeah.
Sorry, dude.
Yeah.
Hawaii.
Yeah.
Just start off talking about the run game, especially in the first half. You seem to find some things there, just where you are and kind of what went into an improved run effort yesterday overall.
I say we're taking steps. In the run game, I think we did some nice things in there. I thought some of the gap stuff, we're pulling our guys maybe a little bit more than we have in the last few weeks. And I think it's been really beneficial for our guys. And we got Mac back involved a little bit in the backfield. I thought that was beneficial for us. And so I thought there's some really nice things to build off of there.
Do you save plays for, let's say, like you guys are in position now to play in the postseason? Or are you trying to, if there's going to be a play that you would use in the postseason, you want to see it during the regular season?
It's a great question. I mean, we're still trying to win games, so if something helps us win a game, I feel like we'll utilize it. And if we ever get into a different situation, then we'll obviously handle it differently. But to me, we're just trying to win ball games.
Maybe we could always say, Dak, let's throw here or there, but after that, with the win and all that, how would you assess how you played yesterday?
I thought Dak did a nice job. The way they were going to play us, they're going to make us go the long way. I think they do a really good job of that. They always have in New York with their defense. You know, he's 75% completion. He found a bunch of completions, did a really nice job of that. Obviously, we're always looking for explosives and different opportunities like that. But I thought he stayed within the game and did a nice job.
Sometimes you would like them to, even though they got two safeties deep, say, let's challenge them once or twice.
I think depending on the game and the flow of the game, sometimes there are times to challenge people, but felt like the way we were playing that game, felt like just keep finding completions, keep grinding it out, and I felt like we were going to be in a good position at the end.
Did the weather affect deep balls as well a little bit?
There's a little breeze. There's probably one that kind of just got stuck up there a little bit, but I think he handles weather really, really well for a quarterback.
Why are bubble screens or rocket screen, whatever you want to call them, quick screens, such a red zone focus for you guys?
I think just giving ourselves, get the ball out in space for guys, give our guys opportunities. Obviously, the field vertically gets narrowed a little bit, and so we can still stretch them horizontally. And we had a couple close ones there. CD, I think, kind of lost the ball in the sun there on one that kind of put us in a little goofy situation, but that happens.
CD said after the game he felt like he played terrible. How much was the sun a factor when y'all talk about the plays after, and what wasn't working for him and Dak with the ball saving?
I'd say the sun is just kind of like a first quarter down that corner of the end zone, and then after that it kind of seemed to get away from the field enough for guys to play ball. But those games happen. Obviously, we had a few drops in there. You just got to keep playing, keep responding the right way. You're going to get more opportunities as the game progresses, and I think we can all just keep working through that.
What are they doing to take Amari away? He didn't get a lot of targets yesterday.
Yeah, I think he had 5 targets probably. I thought they kept the shell on top. Really both edges. A lot of our completions were in the between the hashes and between the numbers specifically, and so I think that was where our opportunities presented themselves. And so, obviously, a game like that, you end up seeing Schultz gets a number of catches, CD gets a number of catches. They end up being a little bit more of that check down. CD or TP and Zeke had some more, and so the perimeters they kind of stuck the shell on top of that, and so. We're always trying to get opportunities for those guys. We feel great about them, and if the opportunity presents itself, we'll take advantage of one-on-ones outside.
Why was Sunday the right time to go back to Connor McGovern at left guard, and what did you make of how that worked out?
I think it was a really, really good opportunity. Get a full week of practice. Connor Williams get back in there at left guard. I thought, what McGovern brings to the backfield is really special, and he does a great job of it. And so I think we're in a really good place. And so continue to progress with these guys. And obviously left tackle, we kind of had Terrence and Ty both play, just because Terrence hasn't played a ton over there. Ty's kind of been, always kind of played left tackle. Terrence is kind of mostly right tackle. So we felt like playing both those guys over there gave them an opportunity to kind of both platoon. They kind of had a nice balance there and let the other guys roll.
On the Schultz touchdown, were you hoping that Connor McGovern would have got that?
Yes. Yes, I think everyone wanted it, but they covered McGovern. So, it happens. Maybe we'll see if we can get another one.
Sorry, there was a pretty big disparity between Schultz's production the first 6 games and the next 7. I understand what you said about coverage yesterday, but is there a reason for that disparity, and is that something that you need to try to intentionally work into what you're doing regardless of the coverage?
Well, I think we always want to get guys, we always talk ball distribution, trying to get a lot of guys involved in the game. And, it's something probably for myself, I'm always trying to find different ways to get guys the ball and, get guys out in space, get guys opportunities, touches, because, that's what we want. I think we had 9 guys that touched the ball in this game. And so while there's guys that, hey, you'd love to get Amari more touches, we did get the ball distributed around. And I think that's an important aspect. Defense is going to play us a certain way, but we still want to get the ball to all our different guys. And, this game presented Schultz a lot of opportunities inside, and so, those guys, we want them to get the ball.
This is, I apologize for basic, football 101, but people always say you want to attack the defense in a way that makes them switch up. Is it fair on some level to think that defenses are just unwilling to change the way they're playing? It doesn't seem like they're presenting you with a lot of different looks regardless of whether or not other things are working?
I'd say, we're being tested of our patience a little bit at times lately. And so I think, this game was a great example. I know it wasn't fancy by Dak, but I thought he kept finding completions, kept doing a good job. Do we want to finish a couple and get a few more points out of those? Absolutely. But, I think sometimes they're going to test your patience, and eventually if the script gets flipped, then let's take advantage of opportunities outside.
Not so much, not really this game in general, but like, if a team is presenting that to you just too high all the time, doesn't want to give you those looks, is there an effective way to shake them out of playing that way?
Well, I think obviously they're giving you opportunities to run the football, and they're going to make you go, in general, they're going to try and make you go the long way. They're going to try and create 8-10 play drives and hope the offense at some point slips up, and then, they get you behind the sticks, and now it's a challenge to make large chunked plays when they play too high safeties. And I think it's obviously a little bit of a trend across the league. Everyone's kind of, seems to be a very common approach by a lot of teams. And so, sometimes it's to make you go the long way, and you got to be willing to do that. And at the same time, still aggressively, when you do get those opportunities, take them. And, when they do give you one-on-ones, you got to be ready to take them.
Dak was saying on that turnover he had in the fourth quarter, that was an example of him being a little greedy, going for something. Is that an example on teams are willing to ride this out all the way through because they just assume at some point your instincts are going to kick in and you're going to force something?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's obviously a great example. I think just keep chipping away. That was in the fourth quarter. Just take a little completion, move on. We're going to have one nice long drive there early in the fourth, drive it all the way down the field and get some points. And so, obviously at times we got to check ourselves as well.
What's the biggest impact when you guys have virtual meetings before and after practice, and how does that affect your teaching ability to say this is what's in the plan?
I would say our guys have gotten really good at them. I really think in many ways they're very comfortable with it. I think we do a great job of it. Do group settings. We can then break up into small groups. Sometimes, you lose a little bit of the interaction aspect of it, and potentially some of our additional walkthroughs that we do within meeting times. Because a lot of times you'll have a large block of a 2-hour meeting time, but guys don't want to sit in a room for 2 hours, and so sometimes last 20 minutes, last 30 minutes may become a walkthrough, and so you do lose a little bit of that. But I think we're trying to find different creative ways to. Find ways to maybe extend the practice just a little bit so we can maybe, get some of that walkthrough that we miss.
When you're in person with these guys, can you tell when it's like, yeah, we better try and do something different because we're kind of losing them right now? Or is it just a kind of a set time that you just, hey, I'm going to have this meeting?
I think our meetings are pretty regulated, pretty routine. And so, I think guys kind of know when the breaks are going to be. Obviously, you do get a little bit more of where guys are if they're tired, fatigued, maybe need a quick little break, a little more interaction, whatever it may be. But I really think our guys handle the meetings pretty well. And in some cases, you wake up and you just pop right onto your computer, and then they're not driving down here until later in the day. And so in many ways, it probably keeps guys in their comfort zone and allows them to stay at home for a little bit longer.
Have you done anything differently in terms of if you try to read a book, talk to someone about these virtual meetings just to try to keep guys engaged? Because you're a former player, these meetings can sometimes become mundane.
We did a little session in the spring when obviously the OTA phase started as purely virtual and no components of being in person. And so we had a little session with some college professors to kind of talk through that because colleges are obviously living in this world. And so, it was interesting, and you learned a few things, just the amount of, you kind of got to change up the presentation, and you can't sit there and, just go through PowerPoint slides for, none of us want to do that, right? And so for us, we have to remind ourselves, you can't just sit there and click through 100 slides over the course of 45 minutes and think you're going to get what you want out of it. So,
How are your meetings different than this year compared to last?
I think the biggest thing is we're doing a better job of incorporating the video. Last year we had some technology things that were a little bit of a challenge. I think the technology's caught up to the point where that we have that we can make it very much interactive, where you can see the drawing, then go to the clip, drawing clip, and we can show so much more film, so much more easily to the players. And so I think it's been really good.
How consciously do you prepare and present differently virtual versus when you're in the room with a guy?
I would say it's fairly similar. I think you just got to be conscious of the length and make sure, because it's natural, you're always sitting in a chair. Sometimes you just kind of get into the routine of just sitting there on your computer, and you got to remember, give guys breaks, let them go take 5 minutes so they can stand up, move around, do all those sorts of things that we all probably, with all of our Zoom fatigue that we all have nowadays, we need to stand up every once in a while.
So your presentation's still basically the same, you're just more cognizant of, well, okay, the body language is here, maybe let's take a quick break, or...
Yeah, I think, we're trying to create as much of a routine that feels the same, so the presentation is obviously very similar, because, it's simply just sharing the screen that you'd normally share in the meeting room. I think it's just reminding yourself to give the guys a little break here and there, and so they can break it up and, come back with a little bit more energy, grab a snack, go to the bathroom, all the different things that you normally do in a meeting. You just got to remember to do those even virtually.
Were those local professors, or how'd that get set up for y'all?
I don't know the exact connection. They were from North Texas, and so they came and presented to us right before. This would have been late March, right before we were about ready to start the OTA phase, and we were going through that setting. And so I think our guys do a good job. Our position coaches are then able to handle their meetings. I think that was the biggest aspect. They're able to do the film on their side as well, and so I think it moves smoothly. We go from a team meeting, and they break out into offense and defense. Then we go into position meetings, and then at the end of that session, they go with Bones on special teams, and other guys stay in their virtual meeting rooms. And so it feels very very similar to how we do it here.
Like said, the concept is called bend back when y'all are kind of pushing the pile. What's the philosophy there, and how do you practice that, especially now in a stage when there's so little contact, or how do you know that you're ready for it?
I think it's just guys getting behind the pile and giving the presentation. Obviously, there's a practice component. You're not trying to hurt your own players, get behind it, but we obviously train it throughout training camp. That's a big opportunity for it, and our guys have done a really nice job. We had a couple in there. We had the short yardage to Zeke, and then the sprinkle caught a pass where they almost shoved him into the end zone. And so something we talk about a lot: just cover, finish, the bend backs. Those are kind of the terms we use, and I think our guys are doing a really good job of it. It's hidden yards. It's Zeke can fall down and we can get a yard on that and get to first down, but we got whatever it ended up being 8-9 yards out of it, and that potentially gets you on the other side of the 50, and now you're rolling.
Physically, Zeke today compared to say 2 weeks ago when you're coming out of that 3-game 12-day stretch, what differences have you seen?
Certainly looks better. I thought he's done a great job of fighting through everything that he's been dealing with. 3 games in 12 days is really hard on people, and then when you're putting in injuries, it's really a challenge for everyone. And so he's done a great job. You can see the last couple weeks, you can see the steps that he's making, and he just looks so much more confident out there and comfortable out there playing. He kind of got the brace going, and I just think he's really comfortable right now.
But Tony, are there times with this foot you have to say, can you make this cut on your left foot and you run that play?
I think our approach to that game was really, we're just going, if he's ready, let's go. And obviously he's going to work with the trainers throughout the whole process. If something comes up that needs to be addressed or the plan changes, then we obviously just got to communicate about it. But, we felt very comfortable with him being able to go out there and play. And obviously, he showed that he was more than ready to play and took advantage of it.
There are a few plays when Jack was kind of escaping the pocket, throwing on the run, getting the completions. Was that an element of his game that had been lost or less used in the last month? And if so, what did it mean to see that?
The scramble phase, obviously, is something we've emphasized here. I thought this game presented a couple opportunities where our guys did a nice job of it. Something probably we just had missed maybe some opportunities the last few weeks on those things. I think those are important aspects of the game where, hey, you want the play to go perfect. If it gets a little jacked up in some form, we got to be ready to get to the next phase of it. By time, receivers got to be able to adjust to that and get to the open spots. Thanks. Yep.
Doing good, thanks. How you guys doing? Good.
Can you just start by talking about the game that Anger had yesterday when field position was such a big part of how Mike and Kellen wanted to call the game?
Yeah, I think looking back on it, it was, I think, a little bit of an underrated part of the game. I think in the game, I didn't even realize maybe the impact that it was having because he had 4 punts, all were fair caught, and all were into the 10. And I don't think I really realized that during the game, but with the wind as a factor too, to be able to match the distance and the hang time and the accuracy to make those guys catch the ball into the 10 was pretty good, man. It's pretty good because it was windy and it was a factor going into it one way and with the wind at the back one way, so he had to really determine how hard to hit it to keep it in play where it wasn't a touchback, but it also wasn't fair caught on the 20 or something like that.
Was wind a factor on the extra points?
Yes. Going in that direction was a big factor. That's why we wanted the wind at our back in the fourth going the other way. But the first PAT definitely, it was blowing left, and you can see it went kind of middle, and then it just took a hard left. And then I think the second one, he probably overcompensated and said, he was mad. He's like, hell with it. I'm going to try to just drive it right through the goalpost and hit it hard, and it just took off on him the other way. So probably overcompensated, but going that direction, the wind was a factor. Catching kickoffs and also kicking field goals. We knew that before the game. Going the other way was nice because the wind was kind of at the back, so it was a little bit cleaner ball.
Do you want to put Pollard back on returns, or because of what he's dealing with, you want to say, forget about that, let's let Corey do it?
Yeah, I think when he feels like he's confident to be able to do it, he'll for sure go back there again, and whether it's this week or next week, love to get him back there again. But I also really respect, Corey Clement's work back there. I know he put one on the ground in Washington, but that was also a win factor catch because the balls were getting knocked down going that way too. So Corey's done a great job, and when TP comes back, that'll be his spot. But we won't do that until he's confident. And of course, hopefully that's what Coach feels the same way.
Forgive me, I forget the exact nature of what y'all were being recognized for before the game, but you had a moment with your family and honoring your father's legacy. What did that mean, and to be back with the Giants and kind of thinking of your dad?
Yeah, it was very special, very emotional, because I spent a lot of years there as our family. He was there 2 years as an assistant, 7 years as a head coach, so 9 years in the Meadowlands, not that stadium, but the one next door. Was really special, brought back a lot of really cool memories, a couple not cool ones, but the real cool ones outweighed the not cool ones. And then to present that check to the family of a Navy SEAL who was killed a couple weeks in action through my dad's foundation that me and my siblings and a couple other people are a part of was really cool. And really tip my hat to the Giants because this kind of happened on short notice because the man just passed away a couple weeks ago. So we put something together and made a donation to the foundation in honor of Brian Bourgeois and his family. So it's really cool to do that. My sister was there. She drove up with her family, and to see them was great. And to do it on that stadium where the Meadowlands, where we had a lot of cool things happen, was really neat. Thanks for asking that question. It was emotional, and before the game, you're like, you don't want to go there, but we did.
Matt Daniels will be unavailable for the coming days. How do you respond to that challenge?
Yeah, like every other one we've been hit with over the last couple of weeks or months, the game plan's always changing. So Matt's done a great job. I mean, first of all, I think hopefully he'll be a special teams coordinator here in the near future. He does a great job for us. And I think, I haven't told him yet, but, I'll lean on C.J. Goodwin a little bit because Matt's really good with the gunners, the corners on punt return, some of the guys on kickoff. So some of the small group focus that he has with our special teams group, I'll lean on C.J. and a couple of guys that are veteran special teamers to kind of pick up the slack and make sure they help me out at practice and in the meeting room. Maybe even give them a chance to run a little bit of the meeting with those specialty guys. But we're still talking about that, but I have confidence that we'll get it done, especially playing against a team we just played, 8 days ago. They don't play till tomorrow night, so there's not a lot of new film to watch on them.
You seem like the type of person that likes to, you're energetic, you want to coach guys in person and that. How do you kind of apply your coaching methods to having to do the virtual? It doesn't seem like something that you would love to do, but how do you kind of go about trying to translate over to virtual?
Yeah, it's a good one. I do not love to do virtual. Even this thing, when you guys were not here for 2 weeks, I was like, man, talking to this thing. The human element to me is everything, especially with coaching to players, and even in the special teams world. I can't say more than O&D, but a lot of our meetings are on the field, walking and talking. There's not a lot of sit down and look at playbooks and study plays and memorize this, and a lot of it's walking and talking and ideas and, hey, if they do this, what do you think here? So it's very interactive, and to lose that part of it for us in the virtual world, it's a big difference. So when we've done the virtual stuff, we try to make it probably 50-50 educational and entertaining, just to keep them alive wherever they're sitting at home, and try to make it as back and forth as we can. But there's nothing like just being in the room and on the Ford Center turf with them for a meeting. So hopefully we get them back, and this virtual can end soon.
You're always having a lot of conversations with Mike during the game. What were some of the conversations just before halftime on when to call a timeout? And on that same note, when Dalton's catching the ball and running out of bounds, how much does it help to have players who are that aware of the clock?
Yeah, a ton. That was a great play by Schultz. Just to have the awareness that not only to get out of bounds, but get out of bounds going forward, because if they would have ruled forward progress in bounds, they would have kept the clock winding. And we talk about that, every Friday we have a team meeting that goes around the league talking about different situations and the nuances of really, under 2 minutes and a half into game. And most of the time when I'm talking with Coach, it's about what's the distance we need to get to for field goals, and anything else that could happen. If we need to clock it, if we need to be in, we call it thunder, if it's 3rd down to 4th down, running clock, how many timeouts we have left. There's just tons of stuff that I have to be in tune with, because it's part of the special teams world, that hopefully I can help Coach if he needs it. I definitely don't get on the headset if it's all fine and dandy, but I'm always there just because I'm always paying attention to it anyways.
You want DeMarcus to start wearing boxing gloves in practice now?
Yeah, huh? I was watching that this morning because I didn't get the TV copy until a little bit ago, and when I got 2 replays of it, just punching it out, I was in my seat going, yeah, man, we got one. So when we show the tape on Thursday, it's around the league stuff, but we want to be on the around the league tape, that we show in our meeting room. So, I mean, what a great sweet spot, just right through the top down of the football, and man, that was great. That was a great play, and it got us 3 points at the end of the half.
Internally, do you guys have a name for that sort of punch, peanut punch, or what do you call it?
We call it a punch. Yep. So that's it. but it's a good question. So if we're frontal on a ball carrier and we go like that, it's a punch. If we force it out with our shoulder, because it's a higher speed tackle, we call it a shoulder tackle. If we're coming from behind and we go top down, we call it a hammer. If we're from behind and we go bottom up, we call it a Tyson. If we get them all wrangled up, we pull it out, we call it a race. We have different names for all our different takeaways, and that was the punch. That was a clinic punch right there.
What was the last one that you said you pull it out? What do you call it?
Call it a rake.
These are your names, or is it pretty common vernacular around the league?
These are Cowboys terms that we've coined and come up with. So you can kind of categorize, how the balls are coming out. There's a lot of different ways, but we don't want to have 20 different ways. We want to have just 5, and they'll pretty much fit in about 5 categories.
Who's the best you've ever seen do that?
Charles Tillman, and then current day is Darius Leonard. Darius Leonard's got a ton of them. Josh Norman, maybe put in that category. The punch takeaway, Peanut, definitely Darius Leonard. Josh Norman, Levante David, it's a great, punch, hammer, takeaway guy.
What about on the current team?
Oh.
Well, this too. I mean, on Cowboys.
For the Cowboys?
Yeah, who do you like?
Yeah, DeMarcus has gotten a couple of them out. Donovan Wilson has a real good knack for going for the football. Keanu Neal in his past has a lot of forced fumbles. And, some of the guys, Anthony Brown's getting better at it. Jordan Lewis is getting better at it. And we've put up in the meeting room, their total tallies for their careers, and so it's a little bit of a competition too to see who can get the most. Because you don't have to recover it to get a statistic for a forced fumble, so we're going for forced fumbles, and running to the football is how you recover it.
How, if at all, are you a different coach in the virtual environment today than you were at the start of the pandemic last year?
I've gone into the team meeting room and I've used the telestrator. So last year I didn't really use telestration, and we have a great team meeting room that allows us on a big screen, so I could be watching film and the guys are watching what I'm looking at, and I can pause and I can draw on it, almost like they probably do on the TV broadcasts. So we have the ability to do that. So I think that brings it to life a little bit more when you can pause, circle, pause, arrow, draw happy faces or whatever. I mean, all kinds of different tools. So I'm still learning a lot on the virtual world, how to bring it to life and make it more interactive. It's never going to replace being in the same room, but I think there's ways I can make it better for sure, because we're probably going to be in this for a while, years, every once in a while, I don't know.
John, you mentioned Kelvin Joseph a couple of times, and he made a couple of plays yesterday. How would you measure his progress on special teams throughout the season?
Yeah, that's a great one. Immeasurable, his progress. Especially, he got hurt early in the season, missed a whole bunch of really valuable weeks. And when we got him back, he was, raw and as fresh as can be, because he missed a lot of time. I'm really proud of him for showing up every game and every day at work. Really. He's kind of a quiet kid, and game day, you kind of look at him, you say, I hope he's here today. And every day he's here. So I've always learned, don't judge a book by its cover, whether a guy's hyped, whether a guy's just focused, whether he's quiet. He's showing up every day, and he made a tackle on kickoff, made a great play, engaging a blocker and then separating and making a tackle. For a cornerback, those are tremendous skills to get. And I think it's only going to help him when he gets to be playing more defense, whenever that's going to be. Just the combat, the high speeds, the big spaces, the close quarters. I just think special teams, I'm biased, but I think playing early on special teams for a young professional football player pays huge dividends for them once they get demoted to becoming an offensive or defensive starter. So that's what I was telling him.
Dak mentioned that DeMarcus Lawrence had bet him whether the defense would get more turnovers than the offense would touchdowns that the guys were talking about. Is that something you hear the guys talking about, and what's the energy like if so?
Yeah, I hadn't heard that until I heard Dak say that. So it must be a wager that was on the down low, but now it's out. So I don't know what the wager is, but I like it. The in-house competition, and might be probably just push-ups or something they got on the line.
Deshaun Wright has played a lot of special teams. He's been down of late. Can you kind of, how do you see his season thus far, and any context you can provide as to why it hasn't made much sense for him to be up?
I'm missing that week with the COVID. Heard, obviously, he couldn't play 1 week because of COVID. And then the next week, he wasn't back till like Friday, so he hadn't had a week of practice, so we didn't want to play him after just being back for 1 day, so that was 2 games. And then this past week, really, I think it came down to needing the extra back because of Tony's, whatever. So the extra spot, went Quan Hardy up and Nashon down. I think that's about as simple as it was.
All right.
Yep.
Thanks, Coach.
Okay, thanks, you guys.
So you said you got a quiet rapper.
What's that?
You said you got a quiet rapper.
Quiet rapper.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Joseph, he's a rapper, but he's quiet.
Yeah.